Okay, so what if an ancient myth wasn't just some fairy tale, but was actually a coded map? That's what we're digging into today. We're going to explore Amitav Ghosh's incredible novel, Gun Island, to see how a forgotten legend gets decoded to reveal a hidden history that is shockingly real and, well, more relevant than ever. This quote from the book really sets the tone, doesn't it? It suggests the past isn't something that's just dead and gone. Nope, it's an active force, a beast that's still here, haunting us. And its stories and warnings are echoing right now, basically demanding that we pay attention. All right, so at the absolute heart of this novel is this old Bengali legend. It's all about the powerful snake goddess Manasa Devi and this one merchant who decides to defy her. Now, on the surface, it sounds like pure fantasy, you know? It's a story packed with gods, magic, and these strange, far-off lands. So the legend goes something like this. There's a wealthy merchant, the Banduki Saudagar, and he just flat out refuses to worship Manasa Devi. Big mistake. As punishment, she unleashes all her fury on him, forcing him to flee for his life on this crazy journey across a bunch of mysterious islands. The whole thing reads like an ancient, mystical fairy tale. But this is where the story takes a turn. This is where it gets really fascinating. The characters in the book start to think, hang on, what if this isn't just fiction? They start to wonder if maybe, buried underneath all the supernatural stuff, there's a real history just waiting to be dug up. So they start treating this myth like it's a puzzle or a cold case file. They look at all the bizarre symbols and weird places from the legend, and they ask a really simple question. What could these things have meant in the real world? And then, boom, the first huge breakthrough. It comes from these carvings at the merchant's old shrine. At first glance, it looks like a hooded snake right next to a gun. You know, the symbols for the goddess and the merchant. But when they look closer, they realize it's not a drawing at all. It's a letter from the Hebrew alphabet. It's a clue that points to a real person's identity. And the clues just keep on coming. The legend talks about this really weird place, an island within an island. I mean, what does that even mean? Well, it turns out to be a perfect, historically spot-on description of the Venetian ghetto, which was literally a segregated island district inside the city of Venice. The myth wasn't being metaphorical, it was preserving actual geography. You know, there's actually a term for this, the historification of myth. It's basically what happens when real history, passed down by word of mouth, slowly turns into a legend over time. The facts become symbols, the language becomes folklore. And the real challenge is to reverse engineer that whole process, to turn the myth back into something you can actually verify. So with these clues in hand, the myth suddenly stops looking like a fairy tale and starts looking a lot more like a map. The characters begin to piece together the gun merchant's actual journey across the world, and all those fantastical islands, they suddenly snap into focus as real places. So his escape from the goddess in the Sundarbans in India, that was just the beginning. The island of Gun, it turns out, wasn't about weapons at all. It was a reference to Venice. The next stop, an island called Mystery, well, that's just the Arabic word for Egypt. And his journey ends tragically near the so-called Island of Chains, which is a clear nod to Sicily, a well-known hub for pirates back in the day. The myth was a travelogue all along. And get this, they can even place it in time. By lining up the journey with historical records of plagues and fires, the whole story seems to happen around the 1630s. So we're not talking about some ancient, unknowable history here. This is from just a few centuries ago. And all the places they mention, they're still on our maps today. You can go visit them. But this is way more than just uncovering a forgotten story. The most powerful realization, the thing that really hits you, is that this history, it isn't over. In fact, you can see echoes of it happening right now in our own time. So let's go back to that last part of the merchant's journey. Remember? He was captured by pirates and sold into slavery. A truly terrible fate, right? But it's also something we tend to think of as belonging to the distant past. Yeah, we like to think we've moved on from things like that. I mean, there are no open slave markets anymore, are there? We like to think that chapter of history is closed for good. But is it? The novel draws this stark, absolutely chilling parallel. The slave trade of the 17th century is still with us. It's just called human trafficking now. The forced movement and exploitation of people, the exact same horror the merchant faced, is one of the defining crises of our modern world. The history isn't dead, it's just changed its name. And this all brings us to the ultimate question. Why? why go to all this trouble to decode an old myth? For the author Amitav Ghosh, the answer isn't just about understanding the past, it's about hearing a powerful warning for our present. So the point here isn't to find some kind of timeless, universal wisdom. It's about recognizing specific historical truths that we are dangerously close to ignoring. The novel makes this brilliant argument that our inability to read the history in the myth is the same kind of willful blindness that fuels denial about present-day warnings, like the ones about climate change. Forgetting the merchant's history is a symptom of the same disease as ignoring the planet's future. And that really leaves us with a final, pretty urgent question. This story shows us how a myth can be a map, a warning passed down through the generations. And it makes you wonder, what other stories, what other warnings from our collective past are hiding in plain sight right now, just waiting for us to learn how to read them before it's too late?